The Accidental Entrepreneur is produced by Bindhacker Law and brought to you through our affiliate relationships with the following sponsors. One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the average podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. North Authentic, the conscious hair care marketplace offering the cleanest brands from around the world. The Healthy Place, the e-commerce site with thousands of supplements to help you live a healthier life, along with natural solutions for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and much, much more. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
It still was wireless, but like it was installed in the wood, but like the memory, like the picture were taken or the images were taken and like they were recorded on site on a SD card. So the hunter had to go on site to remove the SD card. And the point is like, typically a hunter will have like anywhere between 7 to 10 of these devices.
Got it.
And so every weekend or so, the hunter will go on site and basically walk through his 7 to 10 cameras, remove the SD card from it, and then bring them back home, insert it into their
and what did it allow them to
computer.
do? Just see what wildlife was walking by the camera on a regular basis?
And
it doesn't mean they're going to come back next time, right? By the time you get the SD card and you load it up and you get the pictures, right? Is that valuable?
It is valuable, and it's depending on what sort of game you're hunting. But like the point is like when you're a hunter and you understand like the pattern of such an animal, for example, for a specific deer or a moose or a turkey,
they follow the same path.
Yeah. So, but like you do have to build it yourself. So you have to have the knowledge and the experience of hunting for several years. And like when you get that SD card installed in your computer, you're like, wow, there's 200 picture. This is a tree branch moving. This is a squirrel. And now there's my deer. Like there's the one buck that I would like to.
It's a lot of work.
To get.
You got to know what you're doing.
Lot of filtering, and you have to know what you're doing. So like at that point, prior to 2016, like that's how things were. Well, that's how hunters.
That's how they were done.
Stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and so Jimmy and Jan came up with the idea that we should connect them through cellular network, and like that came as an aha moment because the reason why we've connected those cameras is because we had tech guy here that were going in the woods and we were testing like, I don't know, 100 to 200 cameras a day. Okay. And they had to remove all the SD card and like that took a lot of time. So we came up with the idea that maybe if we could connect them remotely and transmit it to our like some sort of platform, we would remove that waste of time between those things.
Yeah, it all goes to the cloud automatically, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost real time. Yeah.
Yeah. But at that point, when we've done that for ourselves, we were like, and we've got something there. Maybe the hunter would like to do that as well.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work. And they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Bindhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
Hi everyone, I'm Danny Engers. I'm the CFO of VOSKER. I've been an entrepreneur all my life, or for as long as I can remember. And nowadays I'm working on that incredible startup that is VOSKER. That's going extremely fast, and that is a well-deserving and highly successful security company.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the podcast. This is the post-COVID episode. I have a really interesting guest, international guest today. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see my little scruffy post-COVID beard kind of going on. I had COVID last week, So we're recording today from my office, and Danny will tell us where he's recording from. And if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button. And if you're listening on your favorite directory and you can leave a review, please leave us a 5-star review so we can keep bringing really good, really interesting content like that with our guests today. So Danny Engers, I want to welcome you from VOSKER. We're going to talk about VOSKER and all the cool things that you guys are doing. But maybe we want to go back a little bit, introduce yourself, talk about your background and kind of how you led up to, being the CFO of VOSKER, right? You're the CFO?
Exactly. Yeah.
Good. And where are you broadcasting from, or are we recording you from?
From my own place in Quebec, Quebec, Canada. So yeah, it's
there you go. This is an international episode. I love it. All right. So it's all yours. Why don't you tell us your story?
Well, first, thank you, Mitch, for taking the time to have a chat with me today.
Yes,
it's a pleasure. So like I've mentioned to you before the recording started, I've had the chance to be an entrepreneur for basically for as long as I can remember in my life. I've started many things, many business, many of them that were complete failure, a few of them that were successful, and obviously that led to where we are today with VOSKER. We founded VOSKER about 4 years ago now. And we grew from, the first year we made about 10 million in revenue, and nowadays we are heading towards 200 million. So
So
successful.
I look at it like failures are not really failures; they're just like growing opportunities, right? You learn things and you grow, and you probably learn more when you fail than when you succeed. I think, right?
Yeah, one of the things you always learn when you're failing, you learn a lot more, a lot quicker, and that obviously at some point should lead to success in your life.
You hope, right? Exactly. But VOSKER, or maybe not the name of the company, but the product that we're going to talk about really existed before, right? You kind of met this guy, so maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that journey,
Yeah, sure.
How it happened.
So, we're 3 co-founders in VOSKER. Okay, there's my brother Jimmy, who is the president of the company, so he's managing all the operation. There's Jan, who is the CEO, and was one of the founder of the other business when we met. And there's myself. So the how we met thing was like about, I would say, like now maybe 11 to 12 years ago. My brother and I had a vending machine business. So, like all these things where you sell Pepsi and chips and chocolate bar. And we we wanted to find a new location to expand. And we knocked it on, like, I think I went to about 100 or maybe 150 doors. Like,
you were looking to place your machine. In these locations, then you would collect and fill them and get the money, right? Okay,
exactly. And somehow, my brother, at some point, I told my brother, like, look, we're gonna take a break because I've done a lot of calls and trying to intro myself, and it didn't work. So, and typically, I'm the one who's doing like all these sales pitch, and I told him, like, look, we're gonna take a pause, and then Jimmy suddenly, like, I don't know how, but he went 3 locations, and the third one was what was called at Spy Point at this, which is one of our brand still today, acting.
Got it. Okay.
And Jan was there with one of our employees that's still working with us today, and basically he asked if he could place his vending machine there, and the lady was like, yeah, sure. So I did meet about 100 to 150 businesses, and they all told me no, and then somehow, like, it's always a numbers game, man. Like,
of course,
3 times, and then Jimmy got in, and so we met Jan when he was about, I'd say, like, I don't know, like 27, maybe 28-ish years old or something like that.
But you weren't looking to change the business. You were building the roots for the vending machine company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we met him, and we thought, and we fulfilled the vending machine for about 2 years before like getting to know each other a bit more. And like when you see other entrepreneurs, you kind of try to learn. And at that point, I was like maybe 17 or maybe 18 years old or something like that. So I was just like beginning in life. Yeah.
Did you even know what he did at that point, or you were just putting a vending machine there?
Well, we tried to figure out what the hell they were doing, because like it seemed to be going like greatly for them. So at that point, like when we first started the vending machine spot, I think they had like 4 or 7 employees or something like that. So it wasn't a very like highly successful spot for a vending machine.
You weren't getting a lot of cash out of the machines because you weren't getting a lot of use.
Yeah, but through the 2 years when we worked with them, like a lot more employees started to stack in, and every time we drive our car in to basically fill out the vending machine, we saw more cars. Then that meant more employees, and things seemed to go well. So
what got you curious about what he was doing?
Yeah, exactly. So my brother Jimmy came with the idea that we should ask them. Jan,
what are you doing? How come you're growing so much, right?
Yeah, well, and not only that, but like we have asked them if we could work for them for free, just to learn.
So learn what? Like, did you know what he was doing at that point?
Like, well, we wanted to learn like what was successful about his business, what he was doing, and then Jan basically what he was kind of curious of, like, he saw the two entrepreneurs in us, and he saw the opportunity that maybe I could do something with these guys. So he instead of hiring us for free, he gave us a contract of build what was called a bench test automation part. So at that point there were cameras, and they were testing it manually. So to see if they were working. They were passing their hand in front of a camera, and the camera will see that there was a motion detected through the heat and the motion, and that will take a picture. And at that point, they were testing, I don't know, four camera per hour. And Jan asked my brother and I to basically build an automated part or an automated test that would enable them to test a lot more cameras because it was be automated. And so we had no clue of what.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Doing. So here you have roots where you put vending machines out. Why did Jan say, "Oh, these guys are perfect for building out basically technology or some sort of a system to test the units?" Right? You just got to know each other. You were good friends, and he's like, "Oh, I trust these guys. You can figure it out."
Well, his point, and still to this day it is one of our main value and it's part of our culture. But he thought he saw the two entrepreneurs. So and then he was an engineer, but we weren't
right.
I was at university studying management and accounting, and my brother was doing exactly the same.
So no technology background, no engineering background. And you're what, about 10 years younger than him at this point?
Yeah, right? Just so we have about 10 and a half year of difference in age. But and at that point I was selling cell phone as a side business, and that's about the only thing I knew about technology was about
selling cell phones. You mean you were selling service contracts to people?
Yeah. I was. Yeah. I was a full-time employee at that. It was called Kudo, and it's a big cell phone company in Canada.
Got it.
And Jimmy was working for a competitor. And while we're doing this, we did add that vending machine business, and we were studying full time. So it was a hell of a ride.
But it's not like you guys were 10 years older than him, and he's like, "Oh, well, you have 10 years more experience. You can help me." But it was totally the opposite. You guys are totally green. I mean, you're ambitious, obviously, right? You got a lot of things going on. But neither of you have a technical background. Neither of you have an engineering background.
So the point of Jan was really we're going to ask them to do something that seems impossible, and if they're able to achieve somewhat some part of success, then I'm going to hire them, and we're going to work together.
So it was kind of almost like a test?
Yeah, it was like a test. And we work like that. And it's still till today, every executive that gets inside of the business gets some sort of an impossible task to achieve, and we know that it's impossible.
That's a good approach, actually, right?
Yeah, and if they succeed, then there are already employees. But then if they succeed to do something impossible, then we move forward a lot faster. And if they don't, we're going to try to solve it with them anyways. But it's creating that mindset of you have to deal with the issue, whatever is your background, just try to solve it because nobody's going to help you anyway.
Right.
So we built that machine. At first it was in wood, and we basically we mostly started a fire inside of the garage of my grandfather.
So what did the machine do? How did it?
The working one that we did supply. So we did supply one, and we built one, and it was with the electrical motors, and it was there was an electrode that was emitting heat, and it was passing in front of all the cameras. But instead of instead of doing manually, while what we've built enabled the company to I think it was and able to test 60 camera every 10 minutes or so instead of four per ends per, and it's still in use today.
So, but it's not in wood. It's not made out of wood.
No, it's not made in wood. It's in made all electrical parts. But like that was the second version that we had, because like in wood we saw that it was going to start fire. So we built it. It was a great learning part of our life for Jimmy and I. Like we had to go on YouTube and online, just trying to figure out like make ourselves engineer without being engineers.
Right. No, I look. I'm shocked that this guy, who you'd gotten to know, he was your friend now, right?
Yeah.
Kind of wet with his gut a little bit. I mean, he did set up a kind of a system that said, okay, these guys have to pass this test, but. I mean, shit. It's
then the relations really started there. So like, so, and at that point, they hired us to do specific contracts. So my brother was working to build all the supply chain in the operational sector, and then was in marketing. But I thought that like I didn't really want it to work for somebody else. So like I did that for a few months, and then I quit and started another project, which didn't work. And then,
so you kind of left Jan and then tried something else.
Yeah, exactly. So my brother,
what was that?
Jimmy and Jan were working together, and it was together. A business of I did design a specific product for shaving. Like I've noticed
shaving.
Yeah,
you guys are real entrepreneurs. You just go from one business to the other. Doesn't matter.
I tried.
I like that. That's absolutely. So what did it do?
Yeah, well, I really hated the fact of like my hands getting dirty every time I was shaving. So I wanted to find a way like to like in old-fashioned shaving, I saw that like you had the brush and like you basically use the cream,
do it, and then you go and you get a mess. Yeah.
So, but that was kind of like taking a lot of time, and I didn't have much time. So what I did is like I built a brush that I could fix on any can of cream, like any like Gillette or whatever other brands. And I thought that wasn't made before, so I tried to basically market that. It did add some success at first, but then I saw that like at that point Amazon wasn't that big, and selling online wasn't that big. And also I was trying to supply it from China, and like
it was just hard.
It was hard.
So this is like the shaving cream would spray through the brush.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just take it.
You just take it away. Like, and you could fix it on any
idea there.
Yeah. Well, I tried something. It didn't work. I still have a lot of those brush at home.
That's what happens when you're an entrepreneur. You end up with garage fulls of things from one business to the next, right?
So, but you just like I've mentioned prior to that. So there was a lot of learning there, and then I paused for a while and just like. I had started about 4 business at that point, and just was trying to figure out like what was the next step. So I
how old were you at this point?
Maybe 21 or 22 or something.
So this is just out of college, basically. Just
exactly. Yeah, I was finishing college. I was still working 40 to 45 hours to my work, and then basically being at college, and then trying to start that. So that was like a bit tough. And I told myself,
you work 80 hours a week.
You're able to work those 80 to 100 hours without any issue. So what I did is that I tried to find a work where I could learn stuff and still maybe where I could set up other business opportunity. So I went to work at a bank. I was in charge of. At first, I was a customer service manager, so I was managing a team of 10 employees. Were basically they were clerks working around in a bank. So it taught me a couple of things, and then I saw that there was opportunity, and I was finishing my degree in business and accounting, and I was like amazed by the fact that there was that sort of job where you could be in finance helping businesses to finance their growth. So this is where I saw an opportunity to basically like, wow, I can meet other entrepreneurs and try to basically see what's working and what's not working, learn about how to finance and how to basically fund a business. And I like finance is one of my passion, business finance. So I was like, wow, this is for me. Like it's business development as well as
this was
finance.
Like a Canadian bank or?
Yeah, exactly. A Canadian bank. So I've done that for about 3.5 years or so. And while I was doing that, I was also starting another business. So always with that
I know,
mindset.
I love it. Like you can't sit still, right? Because you're doing one thing, you're like, I got another idea.
Exactly. So at that point, my brother was still working with Jan, and we were very good friends. And we were every weekend or so, we were having some sort of party where the three of us would sit.
Your brother doesn't have the entrepreneurial itch like you. Like he'll just keep starting.
No,
he was doing the same thing.
He did, and he has. Well, every business that I've done with him.
Okay.
So that's the point. And my first business in life, or first business endeavor, is that I was born on the exact same day than my brother, because he's my twin.
Just a different year. Oh, you're twins?
Exactly.
Identical twins or fraternal twins?
No, we fraternal. Yeah, okay. We don't look the same.
But same day you're born. Who came out first? Him or you?
Yeah, I did. So
okay,
I'm the one
that
always
explains a lot. Right.
Well, I'm not sure if that explained that much, but I'm usually the one who's kicking the doors and trying to open a new opportunity, and he's the one making sure we're going to make money with it.
Got it. Okay, that's a good team, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. We both have our way to operate, and then so all my business opportunity and business things that I've done with him, and at that point, I was meeting a lot of entrepreneurs with various businesses
through the bank, through the
bank position, and I was analyzing their finance strategy and all their product and services, and Jimmy was I think at that point during those years was about half of his year to 3/4 of his year in Asia, developing the supply chain, the operation, and all the technical part of the business that we're growing at that point. That was called SpyPoint.
For Jan's business.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it called at that point?
SpyPoint.
SpyPoint. Okay.
And it's still a big chunk of our business today. So what we've done with VOSKER is basically we the three of us tried to merge together everything we were doing, and we started from that. So at that point, Jimmy was always going in Asia, working with various manufacturers, and I was meeting entrepreneurs. So the idea that we came with was I could ask entrepreneurs if they wanted to basically cut middlemen between them and Asia and try to reduce their costs. And for example, you were building, something that costed you $1. I'll try to find it for 50 cents. And then I'm going to pocket the difference and you're going to pocket the
So almost like a broker.
Yeah, exactly. So I was basically, I was becoming the big.
People still do that. Yeah, you can hire them. They don't have any connections in China. You did. So yeah.
So we did great with that business, which still exists today, still running a few $1 million a year. And that business enabled us to basically launch another business, which was in real estate. So nowadays we still manage about 150 locations. Or apartments.
What, units? Apartments?
Yeah, units.
Okay.
And that's a side business.
Yeah, well, it's not that small of a side business. 150 units is a lot.
Yeah. Well, so we did accumulate a lot of wealth through that. So that business was very successful. Obviously, it didn't take that much time, and it was generating a lot of profit day one. And
right, because it's all basically just markup. If somebody wants to source a product out of China, you take it over and do it for them, and if you find for 25 cents, you might charge them 50 cents, or I don't know.
Yeah. And then we professionalize ourselves a bit because we noticed that people didn't have the experience for plastic molding and electrical parts, which we were at that point becoming some sort of a champion in that area. Okay. So that's where the core of our business came from. And
plastic molding
and electrical parts like wires and all these stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And so the point was simply to grow as fast as we could. So we done that. And at some point I was doing that, plus my job at the bank, plus the real estate. And on the other side of the spectrum, Jimmy was doing that with me and was working with SpyPoint. And we were always talking with Jan about new ideas, what we should do. And about 2016 or something, 2016, I think, Jimmy and Jan came up with the idea that we should connect the cameras that were for the SpyPoint brand. They are hunting cameras. That's what they were originally used for, hunters? Yeah, exactly. So hunters use it to monitor the wildlife passing in front of their camera and seeing where should I go for hunting at a specific time. But
now Danny, what's the problem with the cameras? Before SpyPoint had their wireless option, what did the hunters have to do?
Yeah, well, it still was wireless, but it was installed in the wood, but the memory, the picture were taken or the images were taken and they were recorded on site on a SD card. So the hunter had to go on site to remove the SD card. And the point is typically a hunter will have like anywhere between 7 to 10 of these devices.
Got it.
And so every weekend or so, the hunter will go on site and basically walk through his 7 to 10 cameras, remove the SD card from it, and then bring them back home, insert it into their
and what did it allow them to
computer.
do? Just see what wildlife was walking by the camera on a regular basis?
And
It doesn't mean they're going to come back next time, right? By the time you get the SD card and you load it up and you get the pictures, right? Is that valuable?
It is valuable, and it's depending on what sort of game you're hunting. But like the point is like when you're a hunter and you understand like the pattern of such an animal, for example, for a specific deer or a moose or
Got it.
turkey,
They follow the same path.
Yeah. So, but like you do have to build it yourself. So you have to have the knowledge and the experience of hunting for several years. And like when you get that SD card installed in your computer, you're like, wow, there's 200 picture. This is a tree branch moving. This is a squirrel. And now there's my deer. Like there's the one buck that I would like to.
It's a lot of work.
To get.
You got to know what you're doing.
Of filtering, and you have to know what you're doing. So like at that point, prior to 2016, like that's how things were. That's how hunters.
That's how they were done.
Stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and so Jimmy and Jan came up with the idea that we should connect them to the cellular network, and like that came as an aha moment because the reason why we've connected those cameras is because we had tech guy here that were going in the woods and we were testing like I don't know 100 to 200 cameras a day, okay, and they had to remove all the SD card and like that took a lot of time. So we came up with the idea that maybe if we could connect them remotely and transmit it to our like some sort of platform, we would remove that waste of time between those things.
No, it all goes to the cloud automatically, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost real time. Yeah.
But at that point when we've done that for ourselves, we were like, and we've got something there. Maybe the hunter would like to do that as well.
Oh, you mean you did it originally for the testing?
Yeah.
Just to make the testing easier.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, wait a second. Why aren't we selling it this way? Okay, good.
Yeah, but at that point, like remember, nowadays it seems like a very cool and easy things to do. But 2016,
right? Cellular networks weren't built like that.
No, like people were just starting to use cell phone and just starting to get to know what was a cell phone.
Right. There weren't a lot of smartphones, right? It was the images.
Connectivity was not exactly the same as it is today. So like,
right.
And just like getting with the first camera that SpyPoint sold with the cellular network enabled, it was like a $500 device, which nowadays like, and at that point, like typical hunting camera were sold anywhere between 80 to 150
So it was a lot less expensive.
Yeah, well, a lot less expensive than a cellular model, and thus the cellular model you had to pay a monthly fee.
Yeah, you also needed cell service.
Yeah, exactly. So you need the connectivity to transmit. So like we had to convince people to basically like use that, but for very dedicated hunters, it was such a game changer that they were like happy to invest that amount of dollars because
saved them so much time and effort.
Yeah. And when you have one of these devices, you start to question yourself, like, why the hell am I keeping going in the wood for like the 7 or 8 others that are not cellular?
Right.
So like the likelihood that you will invest in the second one, the third one, and fifth one is pretty high.
But don't you need a cellular plan for each camera?
Yeah, exactly. But
right. You can't put them all on one number.
Exactly. So you need a cell connectivity by devices, and we're trying to like get that as affordable as we can for the client,
right?
So that he can get all the cameras once. But like what we've noticed in like 2016, we launched that. 2017 was our first couple of months, and we started noticing something very strange. Before that point, we didn't know exactly what the client was doing with his camera, but we assume it was hunting because like
that's who you're selling it to, right? It was a hunting camera.
It was a hunting camera sold in hunting like
That's where it was sold, hunting supply stores.
Yeah, exactly. But the point, like we were selling at Walmart, but in the outdoor division for hunting.
Right, in that department, right?
Yeah, but the point that we saw at that moment was like now, like when you activate a camera, you have to install the app and give us a bit of information about what are you doing, and we were surveying our clients, so we knew at that point that like Paul bought a camera. And Paul installed the camera, but he didn't install it in the wood.
Because it was wireless, you were capturing the data as to like where it was being installed and what it was being used for and things like that.
Yeah, and so we started questioning our client and basically asking them like, we had their information, so we called them and say, hey, could you tell us what you're doing with your cam?
Right. Why is it on this street corner near this building where there's no deer or moose going by?
Yeah, and we had to deal with privacy thing because it's data, so it's sensitive. But we did everything we could to protect that part. But we really noticed that 30 to 35% of the time, the folks that were buying our camera were using it for something else than hunting.
But that's a lot.
Yeah. So assume 1/3 of the camera.
It makes a point though how important. My son works in this industry, just graduated college. How important data analytics are. Hey. The access to data affects so much because if you didn't have access to any of this data, you would have just kept selling them in hunting stores. How else would you? Yeah. Okay.
And we started to notice wow, this might be a good opportunity because what we started reflecting, or at that point it was Jimmy and Jan starting to think about that. And at that point we had bought a part of SpyPoint, small shares.
Okay, you bought into SpyPoint. Okay.
Yeah. So we were co-owners, and then we were like, well, maybe we should try to use that 30% of a thing and try to address it in a different market.
A much bigger market.
Yeah, because we didn't know exactly that 30% what it was, but we saw so many different verticals like farming, pest control, ag tech.
Right.
It wasn't clear, but we knew there was something because 1/3 of our cameras were bought for that, and our cameras are sold in hunting spot. Imagine if they were sold everywhere else. And that folks knew that.
No, it would be 80% of it would be non-hunting, right, and much bigger business, right.
Here's a word from our sponsors. Looking to get into podcasting? Maybe to market your business for your own enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets. And be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created specially for our listeners. Care for your health, care for the planet, and look flippin' great doing it. North Authentic is a conscious hair care marketplace offering the cleanest brands from around the world. Their pro stylists curate only the most fabulous non-toxic hair products with better-for-you shampoos, serums, masks, and more that actually give you gorgeous hair without hurting your health or the planet. Hey, you've only got one life, one planet, and one glorious mane. Might as well treat them all as best you can, right? Try a 100% clean hair care routine prescribed just for you using their link in the show notes. If you don't see a big, beautiful difference in how your hair looks and feels, you can tell them they're crazy. Do you battle chronic pain, stress, anxiety, or depression? Well, if you take any supplements or you're interested in natural alternatives, you need to know about findyourhealthyplace.com. Find Your Healthy Place has thousands of supplements to help you live a better quality of life, as well as natural solutions for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and much, much more. Need guidance? Use their live chat feature and talk to a wellness consultant right on their website. And be sure to use our coupon code TAEPodcast for all your purchases to get the best prices at findyourhealthyplace.com. Follow their links in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show.
So it was at that point we were about making that maybe 8 or 10 million in revenue threshold.
Okay.
So and then we founded VOSKER on that basis. So Jimmy and Jan called me and say, hey, we need someone to kickstart that new venture and say
you knew finance and that stuff. Your brother knows marketing. You got all the skills that you've been developing.
I knew finance, business development, and entrepreneurship. So at that point, we sit each other, the three of us together, and we say, well, maybe we should start that business apart instead of doing it SpyPoint, just to make sure that we already have a great working brand. And it's going fine, but in order to not defocus the team, let's start a new brand and see if it works, then fine, and if it fails, then
so keep the SpyPoint for the hunting industry, and start a new brand for other people.
because the marketing would be different anyway. So like,
of course, right.
Let's try to reach a bigger market.
Yeah, you'd probably confuse the whole hunting industry if you started marketing it different. You'd lose those customers. Yeah.
So that's the point. So that's how we've done. And what we saw, so we launched that venture in 2018, and then we saw that there was a lot of technology that we were developing in security that could be useful in the hunting industry and vice versa. So we basically merged the two companies. So nowadays, like what we call VOSKER is basically VOSKER Corp owning like the VOSKER security line and like the SpyPoint brand. And we grew at that point from that 10 million or so in revenue, maybe it was about 15 at that point, to the heading towards like this year we're going to end around 200 million. So
200 million. See, so the market's much bigger than.
Well, the opportunity of like just cellular connectivity is much bigger than we expected.
Right,
so,
and the industry kept growing, and the infrastructure kept growing, which helped your business.
So we grew in hunting, we grew in security, and we are outpacing the growth in both markets. So like there are opportunities, but like since we grew that fast, I knew that like there were capital that would be needed at some point, but like we didn't want it to dilute ourselves too much because we knew that we had something here. And
but what you need? You need a capital to improve manufacturing, to increase the number of units that were coming out.
Well, there was a lot of project, and depending on what year, but like just launching a new brand, like you need to commercialize it and to make some brand awareness. So you need to invest in that.
Marketing is expensive.
We saw that at that point, like our margin weren't that high on the recurring piece, but we knew that like with some R&D, we could not only get a better pricing for the client, but also upgrade our margin a lot for ourselves. So we had to do some R&D on that, as well as remember when I told you like the device was sold at $500. It's because it was literally costing us that price.
It was almost a very small margin.
Yeah, and so what we tried to do is basically just like I'll take the example of Tesla. We built something different. So we just tried to reduce the price so much so that at some point, a lot of people could start buying that. So we had a very expensive model, but we had to do a lot of R&Ds to actually develop what was to become the model where.
So now I see it online. It's under $300 a unit, right?
Yeah. So we have $300 units for VOSKER, and for SpyPoint, we've reached that goal of like $100 or so. So people are like, wow. Instead of buying why should I buy another camera? I'm going to buy one that's transmitting. And the cool thing with hunters, for example, and to get back to your point of data, is that like through data analytics, we are able to supply them advices that they wouldn't get before that. So, for example, remember when I was telling that you had to know what you were doing with hunting to
because all the pictures know what you're looking at, right?
But with AI and data, we do that for you. We can tell you like, look, today it's a rainy day at that specific location. It's like you should go on to that place instead of that one. We
can map out like where the animals are going, depending on the weather and the day and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and there are some things that you don't want. You're giving them advice and recommendation about like temperature and all these stuff. You cannot know for sure if there's something that's going to be there, but you don't want to. You cannot just film like. Because there's something about hunting. You have to make sure that the animals are not put at a disadvantage. So in order for it to not be poaching, we can see exactly now.
Right, there's got to be a sport to it. It's not fair to the animal. That's what I was going to say. You got to make a device to help the animals. That you're helping the people, and the animals just getting shot all over the place.
Yeah, so you cannot do that because otherwise that would not be like sports anymore. Right. So what we've done is that we deliberately blocked our camera not to transmit our hunting one, not our security one.
Yeah.
Not to transmit immediately. So, because if you were to know, for example, that there's a big buck right in front of my camera, you take your pickup and go and try to shoot it. But like, the point is that we don't want to be part of that. We want to be part of a sport. So we deliberately like reduced the capacity of our camera to transmit immediately or tweak it in a way that made sure we did respect and our client did respect the law in various states about that, and make sure that not only the law but the fact that it's a sport remains a sport.
That's all built into the algorithm of how the camera works and trains.
Exactly. And that's the same thing for security. For security, it's a different matter. Like you want to monitor who's getting in your backyard, so you want to see its face.
Yeah, you want to see real time.
Yeah, and we're working on AI analytics where like we give you recommendation of like, look, 3 days in a row we've seen that pickup suspecting like activity,
suspicious. Yeah, right.
So we're moving towards that, but you always have to be careful because like there's data privacy issue and all these stuff.
Yeah, I mean the companies like Ring and Simply Safe, they all have those kind of issues too. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So we are hiring a bunch of lawyers to make sure that what we do, is it right? Is it okay? And we strive ourselves to just be a good company. I do understand. Like I'm a user of a lot of devices. You can see my ring and my
right. Yeah, you were showing me offline, man.
Yeah. So I have all these stuff, right? I understand like the privacy is a main issue for everyone. So everything that we have as data right now is like anonymized, randomized. And if you want to extract something, it's a lot harder than at first when we started.
Right, it's very secure as it can be.
Secure as we can make it secure, but like you never know when a hacker is going to try to.
Of course, you always want to be one step ahead, but it doesn't stop.
You do your best, but like at some point, somebody could like try to do something that's wrong, and you cannot do that much about it. But we are doing our very best for that too.
Now, I want to ask you a question, and then maybe we can get into raising money. Like, if you're a startup and you have how did you go about raising money, and how does people go about it? But I don't remember if I asked you this offline. Where did the name VOSKER come from? What does it stand for?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a great question. So the honest truth is that it wasn't supposed to be called that before. Okay. And we did book a trade show, and we had like 2 weeks to basically find a name because we had to print out the polo shirts and all those stuff. Yeah. And like it was the D-Day. We had to choose something, and we were going every year or so. My brother Jan and I are going hunting, moose hunting. It's very far in the wood, and we tried to find names. So we were writing down a bunch of names. Jan was driving, was saying things out loud. I was taking notes. Was just trying to like figure out what sort of name. And Jimmy was on like the patent and trademarks, trying to see like
search, right?
Yeah, is that name taken? And we basically came up with like a list of about 5 to 6 names while we were trying to drive. And it's a long drive. I think it's like 7 to 8 hours to get to our hunting location. And so we had a lot of times. And once we got down to those names, we picked up the phone and we started to call our friends. And what I would say, I will call them the average Joe of this world and ask them like, look, I'm going to give you 5 names. Tell me which ones.
This was the focus group. You didn't have a lot of time, but this was your focus group, right?
Exactly. So we've called them and like we've got those 5 names, and VOSKER came out as the one that sounded the best. And what we wanted it to sound is something like quality, and that could be not scary, but like it seemed like there was something there. Like you cannot treat that in a way that's not respectful. And we thought like if it could sound like Scandinavian or German, that would fit with our accent that our French Canadian speaking, and people would think like we're German, like
right.
So that's how it came.
But VOSKER is a made up word. It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. And like we bought the .com, and this is how
it was available, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They have the trademark in the U.S. and in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's a good story though. It's not like it's a combination of the first 3 letters of something and the last 3 letters of something else.
We just tried a lot of that word. I think honestly we had about 30 at first, and then we just tried to figure out.
Narrowed it down.
Yeah.
Do you remember 1 or 2 that were in the final running?
Yeah, something like Jester and Falco, or like Flactor, or I don't know, like something.
And VOSKER ended up.
Yeah, it's ended up to be VOSKER.
Yeah, V is very Scandinavian. Yeah. No. I'm just curious about that. Okay. So let's get into then raising money. So now you know that there's this potentially much bigger market, or at least you think there is, like there's something going on. How did you start? Because you did know finance, right? And you had worked for banks. So how did you start by looking to raise capital, really? Private investment.
So we wanted to find the right partners, and at first we raised a debt because we were able to raise debt. So
right, meaning you borrowed money, you issued debt securities,
and that when the elastic was at the maximum capacity of like where the debt could bring us from, we knew that like we should take equity, and by we knew I made like sure that the bank called us and said like, look, it will be a really nice time so that you guys take equity.
So this wasn't private borrowed money that converted to equity. This is like you borrowed money from banks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. So they're like, I think you guys should raise some money and pay us off. Right? That was basically
it seemed that way because, like, look, they love it, the fact that we were growing as fast as we were growing, but like the scariest thing for banks is like basically when you grow too fast and you don't have enough equity, then at some point that may fail. Right. So
you got to be able to service your debt.
Yeah. So they asked us like, look, we understand that you have got a great business, but if you could find some partners that could be helpful in a lot of ways. So this is what we've done.
Okay.
So, but before starting, like, I must mention something. The reason why we started raising capital in various ways is because we have this thing in our business where we always ask who we should talk to next.
Okay.
And that may seem like a weird question, but I'm going to explain you why it's important.
Okay.
Because I started doing that a couple of years ago, and that has allowed me to meet a lot of successful people. And every time I was meeting someone successful, I was asking, tell me, what is it you do in life to be successful?
Right.
And how do you see
the world? Get advice from people that have
that have been successful. And I've asked them, like, if I can help you out in any way, just let me know. Okay. And then I was always asking to those successful people, do you know someone else I should talk to? Like, who should I talk to next? And that led me to meet various entrepreneurs, successful one, unsuccessful one, various executive, and like in every sort of business, and some like were like multi-billionaire guy that
is great advice, because you're building a network and you're getting advice and learning things.
Yeah,
it took them a lifetime to figure out.
And so I was, while doing that and while reading books and just trying to do our best with the business, we thought that, like, with all these things, it should be time to raise equity. But like, one of the contact that I have told me that, Danny, do you know what's the that's really funny. I'm not sure if I could say that right now, but like, he told me, do you know what's the biggest technological advantage of a technological company? Okay. A tech company. I was like, well, no, tell me. I assume like it's IT, people, culture, whatever, like something like meant or related to the business. And he told me, no, it's how much money it can raise to grow faster and basically overtake its market.
Right. Because they burn because you're always in a race when it comes to technology. Yeah.
You just want to basically, like, in technology, there can only be one winner. Like, and you can have a few like that will be number 2 or 3, but like
you
number
still make
one,
money, right? But
the number one's going to take 70 to 80% of the market, and like all the profitability that comes with it. So from that, like, little part or of piece of advice, I was like, wow, that's profound.
Right. I hadn't really thought of it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So
because at that point, you guys have been resistant to really raising capital, right? Giving away equity.
Yeah, because we kind of know that, like, look, we're the number one in the hunting space. We're also the number one in security right now. And like, our business model is some sort of mousetrap. And it's an ecosystem. It's just like when you start with your Apple iPhone. Like, you start with an iPhone, then you get a MacBook.
In the world, exactly.
You get an iWatch, and then like the next thing you know, that the next time you're going to change a cell phone, you're not going to buy a Google piece or something. And it's
because you got to change everything. Then you got to change your laptop. You got to change your phone. You got to change your watch.
And you invested all that time building inside of the software, as well as like invested money into like thousands of dollars into that. So we try to apply that model to our business in such a way that, like, look, a hunter has typically 7 to 10 cameras, and our security user has anywhere between 3 to 4 cameras typically when he's got at max, at the right peak potential. So we were like, look, if we can reach a certain peak level, the churn or the level of attrition of our client will be very low, and we will have significant.
Leaving is difficult.
And you don't want to. So if you're a hunter, for example, we've gathered all that information about your hunting, and now we can give you advice that nobody can give you. And on the other side of the spectrum, you're a job site owner and you see so much value in, like, now you can monitor 3 locations at once that you could not monitor prior to that because you didn't have access to Wi-Fi or electricity. And now that thing is enabling you to like just monitor when you're not on site. You can now have 3 or 4 sites more than what you were building prior to that. So, like, when you see that much optimization into your life, you're willing to invest. And once you've invested, quitting doesn't seem like a right option. And investing into a competitor doesn't seem like a right option too, because like you already have those 12 camera, for example, already on a plan, and you already know how the tool works.
You're going to now change out other equipment and try and make them all work together? Right.
Exactly. That doesn't seem like a good idea
No,
anyway.
it doesn't make sense.
So
now, just so people listening, your cameras it's for people that like don't have access to Wi-Fi or don't have good Wi-Fi signals or where they are internet, right? So they can use them without worrying about that. They don't have to run a telephone pole up the street or something.
So our cameras, they work where others don't.
Right.
So when you don't have access to a Wi-Fi or a wired connection, and that you don't have access to electricity. So, for example, the Hunters the Wood, it was a great example.
Yeah, that's important too, that people understand that. You don't need electricity either. It's all solar, right?
It's solar power, battery powered, and you just basically can change the battery when it's off. So, like, the good example that we saw at first was a construction site monitoring. So when you're building something from the ground up,
you don't have
neither of those.
Yet. Right.
But you still want to monitor, like, are your employees working safely? Have you received the stock of that day so that your employee can carry on their work?
From the site, right?
Vandalism, stealing your stuff, like all these things that you couldn't watch before that point. You pay $300 and $20 a month, and then you're good to go. You can monitor each one of your sites, and and it's the same for farming. You want to connect and see, well, you have 40 acres of land and you want to see the end of your place. Well, unless
you can't do Wi-Fi that way, and you're not running wires through the ground out to the trees.
Well, if you want to run a wire, it's going to cost you $10,000.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
Can't do it, right?
But now you can use our product. So
makes a lot of sense.
And people are increasingly buying them for their own monitoring, but because, like, as you may know, your Wi-Fi works at a certain distance, like 30 feet farther from your Wi-Fi. Doesn't work anymore. So if you want to monitor your driveway or your backyard or something like that, like the garage at the end of the
if you have a deep backyard, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. So you buy our camera. So this is typical use case. We haven't built camera, as we're not going to build camera, at least not in the foreseeable future or the near future, to do some home automation or home monitoring. And it's not our business. It's not our core.
It's not your business. Right.
So the reason why we haven't focused on to raising capital at first is because we saw that, like, look, we can build something with like 80% or the lion's share of an industry, like in two different verticals, and dominate without sharing any piece of it. So, like, we've done our best not to dilute ourselves, but at some point we saw and understood that if we wanted to be the player or the only one, the number one, we had to take capital. So this is how we started. Like, okay, we've made a plan, and we say, like, since we want to be number one, and we have a plan to be number one in the future, what are the next steps to achieve that? If I want to send tens of millions of camera a year, what are the steps to get there? Because right now I'm only selling 1 million or so. So, like, there's something that we have to build, and so you need money, R&D, working cap, hiring great people, and you cannot do it alone. Like, nowadays we're about 370 employees, but, like, honestly,
that's a big payroll.
It's a big payroll. You have to pay them. But if you want to double in size, you have to hire more marketing, more sales, more infrastructure, and legal advice, and then all these stuff. So you got to professionalize yourself, and you cannot do it alone in a way that you need great executive, but you also need great engineer, and you also need great customer service relationship people and operational people in accounting and finance. So these people, you need to invest in them, invest in your relationship and your relationship with them. So you have to pay them the right salary. So you need money for all of this. Even though you're profitable at some point, we've chosen not to be profitable at a certain level to go on and basically be number one. And we always have that choice of going back to profitability, which is not the case for all startup or tech company. But, like, if one of the business advice I would give to anyone is, like, unless you have something that you know that you have to burn through billions of dollars to be the only one, and it's going to be worth trillions of dollars, then that makes sense to only, like, invest and burn that capital to grow as fast as you can. But, like, we should, like, sort of in a hybrid way where, like, a mix of, like, profitability, growth, and the right mindset would enable us to still dominate the industry and keep the lion's share of our business.
And you built a strong company to start with. You didn't come in with an idea and saying, hey, let's give away 90% of the company so we can grow this thing and end up with 10% of $1 billion company. You wanted to build a solid foundation.
Exactly. So we're still aiming to be a multi-billion-dollar company, but the point is like I would rather do that with a very significant amount of it than not. So that means that I'm going to be a billionaire instead of like enriching other investors. So, but that requires a lot of equity sweat, a lot of like I'm not saying that when you have cash you're not going to work your ass off, but like you have to be a bit more sensitive to cash and a bit more sensitive to like.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, you cannot burn every money or like every penny here is as well spent as it can be.
Because you look at it like, it's not our money, so what do we care?
Yeah, and so we cannot have that mindset of like grow at all costs and whatever. We're going to raise another round, and especially in the market, the current market right now, it's tough to raise money, but we're still doing so, and things are moving our way. But like, it's because we have that great core of like look, every penny matters in every way.
Now, how much of the company is owned by private equity investors and how much is still owned by you guys? Because you're the three principals, right? And then there's the private equity. That's it?
Yeah, exactly. So as of today, we're not disclosing that amount, but there's something that's going to come up shortly. But like you can...
but you didn't have to give away like 80% of the company.
No, I would. No. You can assume that we have more than that.
You have the controlling interest in the three of you?
Let's say that we have more than 80%.
Oh, okay, good. Well, that's good. So you have a significant control of the company.
Yeah.
So now, did you find because of the tactic that you took to meet people and get their advice and stay in touch with them and build a kind of a network, was that kind of you had people to go to when you started raising capital as the beginning? Not necessarily get money from them, but to meet people through them. Did you feel that helped?
Yeah, it really helped. So the question of like, who should I talk to next? It was the main differentiator. Of course, I think I've met like 150 investors. Okay.
Yeah, you got to meet a lot of people, right? Just it's a numbers game. Them.
It's a numbers game, but it's also like a track record game. Like they want to see like what you've told them. It's just like a public company. Like if you're telling them that you're going to meet a target and you're not meeting it, then like a year later when they see you, they're not going to believe in your story. But
of course,
what we've done is that we've told them like, look, here's where the company is going, like, and these are the numbers we will achieve. And we started to cultivate those relationships. Like 4 years ago, I started raising capital. Day one of your company, you have to start to build your relationship. Okay,
right,
and then that spectrum will lead to meeting new people and new folks, and ultimately will lead you to meet the right investor. But like, you have to be prepared, and by being prepared, you should have started like a lot longer before you really need cash, because when you need cash, it's too late. Like
right, and now they know you, they see you're successful, they see you've
and those successful people so the folks that invested. So Stéphane Crétier, who invested, he's a multi-billionaire guy who's built a global company in the security industry field, and he saw himself in the three of us. But like before investing, there's at least 4 people that told him like, look, these guys are doing something great. Like, and that's how he's like, wow, maybe I should talk with them.
That carries a lot of weight.
So it was not nobodies that were telling him that's that thing. Like there were other successful executive businessmen, bankers, and all like various walk of life people who were basically telling them like, look, I think you should sit with those folks. And this is how like that deal came up. But like we did raise capital in various ways as well. Like we've gotten convertible debt before he invested from like a big pension fund in Quebec. But the reason why we've got that cash is because 4 years ago we went to them and asked them like, look, if you want to invest now, you could do so for $4 million, and you would get about 30 to 35% of the business. And they say, well, like, look, we're not sure if that's a thing. Prove us like what you're doing. I'll say, okay, good. Like we're going to do it, and then we're going to come back and see you. So,
right, but not 30. They're going to have a new valuation. It's going to be much lower.
So now
much higher, I mean.
Yeah. So I think now that what you have to do is make sure that the investor lives with the regret of not having invested at the right moment. And that is when they start to say, well, maybe now I should write a check. So
now, have you turned down people that wanted to invest? Have you ever looked at somebody and say, they're not right for the company?
Yes, we did. I think like that's also important, because like you have to make sure that the shareholder that are going to get on board with you are aligned with what
that they're not just bringing money to the table, right?
They're not just like, and look, like private equity of this world is like, they're always like, look, we're going to give you that much money. We're going to take the control of your business. And now you build something much bigger. And I'm like, wow, this is great money. Like when somebody is telling you, like, every one of you, the three of us, the three of founders, you're going to get 100 million each. And then we're going to grow the business. You start to reflect and say, hey, that sounds like a pretty nice offer. Like, let's reflect on that. But if you strongly believe that it's going to be worth billions of dollars,
right? Why are you giving up so much control?
It doesn't make sense. So you have to be aligned in various ways. So we did say no to investors that came up with, like, they were getting it with the right valuation and pretty significant numbers, but it didn't make sense at that point for us to say, basically give it up. So. But we're still talking and we're still open for business. But as of today, we still believe that there's a little ahead of us. We're not willing to share too much.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, and you got a busy day, I'm sure. But before we talk about, like, how do people, they can search for VOSKER online. You can find your cameras. It all comes up. Read your story. What kind of things are coming down the pike for VOSKER? Like, what's the next project, or where the direction you're heading at this point?
Yeah, so we want to accelerate the brand awareness thing about the VOSKER security. So the last 3 years, we really tried to focus on, like, what is it that the client really wants to get as a product? Because it was still, like, trying to figure out, like, it's data analytics.
Right. What are these people using this for?
Yeah. And do we have the right product? So I think that right now we are at that product market fit that fits what the client needs right now. So now that we've developed that, we are at this point where we want to accelerate and invest massively into getting into retail and massive retail distribution. So that needs
in the United States too. Like, will I see the cameras at Walmart or something?
Well, we're gonna try, but like you have to do so. The big box retailer, we are aiming at them. Of course, we do have a relationship with them with, like, our SpyPoint business. So
of course.
We can just tell them, like, look, we're going to copy paste our success and you're going to make money out of it, but it will require capital. So people can basically watch us going, but there will be another raise either now or in the future, depending on when the market conditions are going to be aligned with, like, the moment we're going to be needing really to accelerate.
Not going to see you show up on Shark Tank one day on TV?
Well, I'm not sure. I think the Shark Tank... Well, maybe I'll be one of the shark.
You're kind of past that level.
Yeah.
Really.
I'm looking forward to be one of the shark, but, like,
I'd love that.
I don't think I'll be at the show to present. No, I think we're kind of past that. Exactly.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Danny, I can't thank you enough. If people want to, it's vosker.com. Is that the website?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay. They can go there. They can do a search through Amazon, whatever they want to follow you. We'll put some links in the show notes to stay in touch. I can't thank you enough. Fantastic story. I love the whole entrepreneurial story, 26 companies going on. You're still involved in many businesses. People should interact with you and learn from you and, mentor with you and stuff. It's all good for you and good for them. And, let's stay in touch. I love to follow successful people and the success that they continue to. And I can't thank you enough for putting the time aside. I forget who introduced us, probably a publicist or something, to come and tell the story. I think it's a great, great, great story.
Well, thank you. Thanks again. It was a pleasure being with you this morning, and I'll be more than happy if I can come back later in the future. Thank you, Mitch, for your time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For more information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@bindhackerlaw.com. The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Bindhacker and produced by Bindhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at bindhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.